G'day everyone. If you watched my recent crayfishing from a kayak video, you will remember that I kept the crayfish and I said I'm going to cook this one up and film a how to cook crayfish video. Well, there it is. There's my cray, and in this video I'm going to show you how to cook it. Rightio, now I'm going to be cooking my crayfish on this Coleman stove. Most people prefer to cook them out the bush when they're crayfishing on a campfire and a big drum, and that's fine. It's the same principle. I just wanted to do it at home under the light. I've got the biggest pot that I own. It's not a huge pot, but I'm going to be boiling it in that pot. I'm going to be boiling it in water, and I'm going to be adding... I really like this when I'm cooking yabbies or crayfish. This is double strength white vinegar. It's really, really strong vinegar. I'll be putting that in. I'll be putting a heap of salt in. You've got to put a lot of salt in. And lemon. Now, I haven't actually got any real lemons, so I'm going to be putting lemon juice in this time. Salt and vinegar and lemon. Now, this stove, you may remember from a video that I've done recently, when it's... I'll just turn the gas on. When it's heating up, it whistles. You'll hear it. I've got flame. Now, it must be something to do with the chemical element of the thing underneath, because in a second as it heats up, here it goes. I don't know why it does that, but I've learned how to fix it. You've just got to put the pot off centre a little bit to let the air get out until it gets hot. Then when it's really hot, I put the pot back on the element and it's fine. Must be just something to do with the makeup of that metal. Now, one thing that I've noticed over the years when cooking yabbies or crayfish is that there's always a lot of strong opinions as to how you should kill the crayfish or the yabby before you cook it. Some people say you should aim right in the middle of that line there and just cut a line straight down through the head, and that will kill it straight away. It'll still move around a little bit because of its nerves, but that will kill it. You can euthanize it by doing that, then throw it in the pot dead. Some people say that you should put it in an ice slurry, a slurry of ice, icy cold water and ice, and that will put it to sleep, and then when you put it in the water it won't feel anything. And some people say that you should just drop it straight down into the boiling water, and that's the way that I was taught, so that's the way that I'll do it. I'm going to get the water as boiling, as hot as I can, not just starting to boil and not just a few bubbles. I'm going to wait till it's really full on turbulent water and boiling. I'm just going to drop him in one go and put the lid on. As I said, a lot of people are divided on what's the right thing to do. That's the way I was taught to do it, and that's the way I'll be doing it. Double strength. Ooh, even smelling it feels like it's going to burn my nose. Don't be scared to throw a whole heap of this in. I've got to be careful I haven't got too much water in there. I don't want to have not enough water because I want the crayfish to be fully covered, but I don't want too much because I don't want, when I put the cray in the water, I don't want it to splash water out. Don't hold back. Heaps of vinegar. Actually, before I add the lemon in, what I might do is, I think I've got a little bit too much water in here. I might just pour a little bit out. I've taken a good inch or more off the top there. Now I'll squirt a mountain of lemon juice in. Remember folks, don't hold back. Salt and vinegar and lemon. Winning combination. Now, after I finish cooking this crayfish, once it cools down, I'm going to show you how I cut it up and get as much meat out of it as I can. It's actually very cold out here at the moment. I'm just warming my hands up. It's almost boiling. It's starting to swirl around a bit, but I want this on a rampaging boil before I drop that crayfish in. Check that out. That's me cup. Oh, look at that. We've got a fair old boil happening here. You can see in there we've got a good boil. That's almost time. Righto folks, I'm going to drop this crayfish into the water. If that's something that you don't want to watch, then look the other way. And lid on. Cooking. I don't normally time this part. I normally just know when it looks cooked, but I've timed it this time just so that I can give you guys watching a bit of an idea. What I'm looking for is to see the tail break away from the carapace, which is the part that you measure. And it's already done that, but it's only been about 3 or 4 minutes, so I'm going to give him another 5 minutes or so. Righto folks, that's been boiling like mad for a good 6 or 7 minutes. 7 minutes to be exact. The tail has come away from... That didn't give me a fright, did it? You'll see here that the tail has come away from the body. Once that happens, I like to give it... Whoops. Once that happens, I like to give it just a couple more minutes to be sure that it's cooked properly. These aren't the best tongs. See how the tail breaks away just there from the carapace of the body? That breakaway, that little gap, that's what tells me that it's done. Normally, I'll let it get to that stage, then I'll give it another couple of minutes. But then when you start seeing white stuff come out from under here, that sort of tells me that I'm losing goodness, and that's done. I think I need to get some better tongs for this. Rightio, now there's my crayfish. He's still a bit warm, so I'll wait for him to cool down a little bit more. Just let me give you a bit of an overview of where the meat is. The meat is mostly in the tail. There's not a lot of meat. Despite it being such a big crayfish, you get a lot of waste for not a lot of meat. The meat is in the tail, in all of the legs, and in all of the claws. Now, some of these parts you can't get the meat out of. It's just way too hard. You can try if you're willing to put in lots and lots and lots of time. Most people go for the tail and the claws. I like to get a bit out of the legs, mostly out of the centre part of the legs just here, because that's where the bulk of it is that's in the legs. So, I'll show you the tools that I'm going to be using to do that. A screwdriver. You're probably thinking, what the hell? A pair of scissors and a fork. Now look at what I've done to this fork. This is just an old fork. I had an old camping fork, a cheap fork. I bent those 3 tines, I think you call them, I don't know, over, and just kept one, and that's to help me scrape the meat out. Rightio, now let's get to work. I'm going to take my watch off. This can get a little bit yucky and sticky sometimes. Now, I'm not going to race through this. I'm going to go nice and slow, just so that I can run you through step by step. The first thing I do is I break the tail off. I put pressure down there. Now, sometimes a fair bit of the guts and stuff inside will come out with it. We jokingly call that the mustard. You can wash that off later if that happens. Don't stress. So you can just twist that. And there, look at that. There's a bit of mustard came in and it's flicked it over the back. That's mostly quite clean. There's not a lot of meat up in there. Most of that is rubbish. I don't eat what's up in there. I then pull the claws off. And you can see there's a lot of juices and stuff falling down here now. That's just water and a bit of guts. It's a bit yucky. Right, that's rubbish. I should have bought a rubbish bag, but I didn't. I'll put the rubbish in that corner of the table, and then I'll make sure that I clean the table after I finish filming. Right. Now what I'm going to do when I finish doing all this is I'm going to put the food in a bowl and then give it a good wash before I eat it anyway. So, right. First thing we're going to do, we're going to get the main bit of the meat out. And the main bit of the meat comes out of the tail. What I like to do, with yabbies you can just rip them off with your thumb, but it's a bit harder with these things because they're so spiky. They do hurt. Have a look at that if I can get up close. Have a look at just how spiky that tail is. They are razor sharp. So, what I'm going to do, this is how I normally do it. Cut up either side, about 2/3 of the way I suppose. That should be enough. You'll see I've cut up to there. You can usually pull that out of there now. You want to be careful because you don't want to break the last bit off in the tail. Here we go. I'm just going to give it a bit of a shake just to break that meat free. There's the end of the tail. Now, this bit here, that's its poo. Sometimes we call it its pipe. We want to get that out. So what we want to do is just lift back at the top and pull that back. Pull the roof off the poo line. That's edible. We'll wash that later. We'll pull the poo line out. I'll throw that over the back fence to the farm animals. I don't know whether donkeys eat that or not, but anyway. And you want to get all of that out. It won't make you sick. You can keep that in there and eat it, but it does taint the flavour a bit. That is the, actually I'll put it on the chopping board. So there's my meat collection so far. That's the main part of the meat. Now we can make a start on the claws. These break apart. You just got to twist them and turn them and be careful that you don't cut your fingers off with the spikes. Oh, look at that. When I pulled that off, all that meat came out. That saved me a fair bit of work. And I'll show you why in a minute. You want to break that knuckle off there. There's meat in there. Now, when you break the claw off, I like to twist it at right angles to the claw. There's like a big fin inside the meat. Sometimes that fin will come out with it and sometimes it won't. And it doesn't really matter either way. It didn't come out that time. You see that meat there out of the bottom part of the actual claw part. That is the nicest meat on the whole crayfish. So, that doesn't always come out like that. That's the one that it come out of. What I'll do now, I'm going to get my fork with my little single bit at the end. And I'll just see if I can scrape any meat out of that knuckle there. I'll do the same with this. There's actually, I'll do it on here so you can see it better. There's actually more meat in here than you'd probably suspect. There's about as much meat in this knuckle as what you'll get out of a small yabby. A lot of people don't go to the trouble to do this, but I don't like to see these things die in vain. If I'm going to kill one, I'd rather get as much meat out of it as I can. And look at that, that's now hollowed. All of that meat just came out of that one knuckle, and that's all very, very nice eating meat. Now this one here, this one didn't come apart as easy as the last one, so I'll stick my fork up and I'll scoop it out. Look at that, great big chunk of meat. That's come out of that part of the arm. All out, make sure it's all out. There's a little bit in here, that can come out as well. Remember folks, it's all edible. There's a little feathery bit there that you get at the end of the claws. That's not edible, that's horrible. It's like eating carpet. And there's a bit of meat just there that came out of the claw. Now, let's see if I can get this knuckle off. You can use pliers to do this if you're finding it a bit hard. Now I'll scoop that in there. Remember, I'm not a chef, but I've eaten more than my fair share of crustaceans over the years. It just got me fair in the face. Remember with the last one, that big chunk of meat came out? It didn't with this one. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I'll see if I can scoop that out of there. I've got about half of it out, or a bit more. That's really soft meat. That's a special kind of awesome, that I can tell you. That's the nicest part of the crayfish. Now we've got the claws. Now before I said that was all rubbish. I'm going to show you how to extract a little bit of meat out of the legs in a moment. Now what I like to do here is cut. Get a pretty solid pair of scissors. Probably not like this. Those black ones that you buy for cutting into chickens, they're probably the best. And I haven't got any for some stupid reason. So I'll cut through there. Alright, that's got me right through. I'll see if I can cut a second line if I can. Right, look at that. I've cut a bit of a case off there. Now I can access all of the claw meat with me fork. I'll do it here because there might be that fin inside. And look at all that meat that I've just salvaged by not wasting that. Sometimes there can be like a fin inside there. And put that over there. Now I'll do the same with this one. I'll get my scissors and I'll cut. Basically you just got to find two spots to cut. Just so you can open it up a bit. There we go. That's opened up. I'll pull the claw meat out if I can. Look at that. There's my claw meat. Absolutely beautiful. Lots and lots and lots of meat. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to flick all that over there. This is all a bit yuck, but remember what I said earlier? I'm going to wash this meat before I eat it. So far, this is all the meat that I've got off one crayfish. Right, now I'm going to do the legs. I'm just breaking them off. They'll just break apart. You can put your thumb on their legs like that if you want, just to keep it all together. Now, with the legs, there's meat all the way through, but it's pretty hard to get out. Mostly I just want to get this part out of the middle, the biggest part there. So what I do, I just try and break it off at a knuckle somewhere. What I like to do is push down with the screwdriver and then roll the meat out the end. You see that? Here we go. It would be good if I had a chopping board with a clamp on that I could actually clamp that under, because that's making it a bit tricky. There it is. There's one leg. It's not much, but it's not going to waste either. There it is there. I'm going to go inside now and give that a wash, clean it up, then I'll show you the finished product. That's what's left of my crayfish. Look at that. I have not wasted any meat. I've got as much meat out of all the legs and claws and everywhere that I possibly can. Rightio folks, now this is the finished project. I'll see if I can pan down a bit on there. You can see in there, there's the tail, there's the claw meat down here, and there's all the legs up in here. So I've managed to get a fair bit of work out and a fair bit of meat out. If you're one of these people that only eats the tail, then I'm probably eating 2.5 to 3 crayfish to every one of yours. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go inside, I'll drain that little bit of water out. I've just washed it in cold water in the kitchen sink. I'll drain that bit of water out. I'll put a little bit of vinegar, and double strength vinegar is going to be pretty strong. I emptied that bottle, but I've got more inside. So I'll put a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of salt, and I'll just eat it like that. No other additives, just a little bit of salt, a little bit of vinegar, and this is a meal fit for a king. Alright folks, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, why not give it a thumbs up, drop a comment below, hit the subscribe button, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.